This video is an introduction to frequency tables and crosstabs. Frequency tables show the number and frequency of the values in a variable. They are usually used with nominal variables or with ordinal or discrete variables that have few values. Very long frequency tables are hard to read and not usually useful, so they are not usually used with continuous variables or categorical or discrete variables that have many values. Let's take a look at a couple in SPSS. The one on your slide shows the number of services conducted by different health departments, and you can see in the left-hand column you've got health departments providing 0 services, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and down here you have some missing data. The first column shows you the number of health departments in each of these 7 different categories. The second column shows the percentage of health departments in each of those different groups and the percent missing. The third column removes the missing and shows you the percent in each of these groups without considering missing. So this is the percentage out of this total 1984 number of health departments without the missing. And the cumulative percentage just adds up the valid percent. So 5.6 and then 5.6 plus 3.1 is 8.7 and so on and so forth. To get this table in SPSS, to get your frequencies, you would go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. Here you have a list of all the different variables in your data set, and you can move the ones over to the right that you hope to have frequencies on. So to get the ones that I got on the slide, we can move this number of services conducted over. We could also maybe move, what if you wanted to know how many health departments were in each state? That'll be a good example of why a very long frequency table is not very useful. So we could move that over and take a look at that. There are several options you can choose from. Today we're just going to do the default. So let's paste that. We get our syntax as usual. We can delete this top line and put a little annotation. Frequencies for number of services and LHD state. And then we can run our syntax. And here we get what you saw on the slide, the frequency for number of services conducted. Here they are down the side and all the other information we already looked at. Now here's the table we get for state. And this one's not too long. If you use a continuous variable that's got, 700 different numbers in it, it's going to be 700 rows long. So this particular one is about 50 rows long, and you can see that there's quite a bit of information to deal with. It may not be all that interesting to have. Okay, another type of table that we can do if we want to look at more than one variable at a time is a crosstabs. Crosstabs is a way to examine 2 variables at once, and it's typically used with categorical variables, mostly nominal and ordinal variables that have fewer categories. If it's got many categories, like with the state variable, this is going to make a huge unwieldy table that's difficult to interpret. So stick with the categorical variables that have fewer categories when you're conducting crosstabs. In this case, I'm looking at the population in categories that we created last time for the end of level 1, and then the health department HIV/AIDS screening variable. So I have smaller health departments, medium to large, and very large health departments. Those that do not conduct HIV screening, the frequencies are here. Those that do, the frequencies are here. You might hypothesize that health departments in large cities with larger populations are likely to do more HIV screening since they have more resources and they're serving a larger population that may have more overall cases of HIV. So from this crosstabs, we can see that that's probably right. If you look at the very small health departments, more than half of them are not providing HIV screening. While if you look at the very largest health departments, almost all of them are providing HIV screening. But you don't really have to guess at this. You can use some of the other options in the crosstabs procedure to get some percentages and really compare from category to category how many health departments are doing HIV screening. So if we want to know the percent of each size health department that screens for HIV, we can look back at our table and see that health department size is in the rows. So here are the rows, and health department size is in the rows of the table. So to get percent of each size health department for comparisons, we could add row percents to our crosstabs. So let's go ahead and try that. So if we want to give that a try, we can go back to our local health department data, and we can go Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Crosstabs, and we had population and categories in our rows, and we had health department conducts HIV/AIDS screening in our columns. So if you just went ahead and hit paste or hit OK, you would get exactly what you saw on the previous slide. If you would like some percentages for your rows or your columns or your total, you would hit this button over here, Cells, and this will give you a little dialog box, and here's a part of the dialog box that has rows, columns, or total. Row will give you the percentage in each category across the row. Column gives you the percent in each category by the column, and total gives you the percentage of entries in that cell out of the total in your data. So these are very different percentages, and people tend to want to click all three and see a table with everything in it, but I'll show you that can be pretty difficult to interpret easily. So I'll go ahead and just hit OK, which usually we wouldn't. We would paste it and annotate it, but just to show you how confusing this can be, here is a table with all the row, column, and total percents in it. So you've got lots of percents here. It's hard to pick out exactly which one I want. You know, for this one, we've got 52.7, 51.9, 19.6. Which one is telling us what percentage of small health departments are conducting HIV screening? Is it 47%? Is it 28? Is it 17.6? It'll take you a little bit of time to get the right numbers pulled out of this table. Instead, you want to think about it ahead of time and go Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Crosstabs. What we want is the percent in each category, each population category that's doing HIV screening. So we want the percentage in each row. So we would go ahead to Cells and unclick Column and Total and just do row percents. Continue and paste. And here we go. We've got our crosstabs. So this will show us the population categories by HIV screening. And right here is where you can see which of the percentages that you wanted, that you clicked. You could change this word to column if you thought you wanted column instead. You could change this word to total if you thought you wanted total instead. So let's take a look and see if we got what we wanted. And if we didn't, we can come back in here and change that word. So go ahead and run it and then take a look at your output. All right, so what we got here was of the health departments with 25,000 or fewer than 25,000 people, 52.7 of them do not do HIV/AIDS screening, 47.3 do HIV screening. Out of 100% of the health departments in that category, a little more than half don't, a little less than half do. Out of 100% of the health departments in this category, 43.6 don't, 56.4 do, and so on. And you get all the way up to this largest category in the 500,000 plus health departments, and 93.6 of them are doing HIV screening, where 6.4% are not. So that's much clearer. If you scroll back up, that's much clearer than trying to pick that information out of this table, although you can see that it's here. There's the row that we were looking at. Here's the row we were looking at. Here's the 93.6 that we were looking at. You can use this, and it may be useful in some situations, but if you can figure out which percentage you want ahead of time and just include that one, it will be a lot easier for you to pick out the information that you want to report. Okay, and one final note of caution here, know the difference. It's really easy to tell SPSS to do something, not pay attention to what it did, and report percents that aren't actually the ones that you were hoping for or the ones that you said that you were reporting in your text. All right, so it may seem really easy once you get that table just to cut and paste your results from SPSS, but it's also important to think about how you're displaying information. You can do the most interesting and important analyses on the planet, and if your audience doesn't know what to look at, what information to pick out, it won't make any difference. So formatting your tables and figures is extremely important to make sure that interpretation is easy and clear for your audience. There's no one right way to make tables and figures, but there are some tricks that will make your information easier to read. So let's take a look at an SPSS table and the same table formatted in a Word document. So here's our SPSS table that we just produced with HIV AIDS screening in health departments in the columns and the different size health departments in the rows. And I transferred all that information to a very basic looking Word document. So here's the Word document that I'm starting with. So let's make this a little easier to read. So it looks okay right now, but there are some things that we can do that'll make it much easier to read. One thing that we can do is align our numbers to the right. So numbers that are in columns that are centered often get difficult to read, especially when they're larger than this. So we can align those to the right. We can remove all these percent signs. See, there's percent in every single row. We can put those instead up in the title of the column. So N and percent. This always wants to change it to a large N. I like the smaller N. So we can use that as a column title instead of in every single row and get rid of all these percents. Then we can put the percents on the same row if we wanted to. Okay, and now we can move the words, make them left justified. So we've got the numbers right justified, the words left justified. We might want to center this, so you can do that by merging the cells and making sure it's centered, and then deleting all the internal lines using borders and shading. So deleting all these internal lines and just maybe leaving a top and a bottom line. You might want to use some shading to make sure certain things show up. So alignment of the cells is something you can play with. Cell alignment, that tells you where your text is going to go. If these columns are pretty wide, maybe they want to be a little narrower. And then the last thing we want to do is people should be able to tell exactly what's in your table from the table title. It shouldn't be something like descriptive statistics, because who knows, that could be anything. So you could make a title like percent of health departments conducting HIV screening. My health department population size. And sometimes people will put the source of the data or the year or both in the table title. But the gist is to make sure that people can understand the table from the table title. They don't have to read through your text to get what you're doing here. So now we have kind of a good looking table. You can compare that to our original table right there. So this is the original table from SPSS. This is our final table that we're going to report, which is a lot easier maybe to understand than the original table. And you can play around a little bit more with the alignment and the shading and bolding and different things to make this table look great. One thing to probably avoid, there are some nice table layout ideas in Word, and some of them look good, but some of them just get crazy. You maybe don't want to report that. It's sort of hard on the eyes. So if you go back to this, it's sort of easier to read.